Hey, don't click away just yet. I promise this isn't just another piece of AI slop. We've actually put a ton of real human research into this highly informative and honestly pretty entertaining explainer. We just can't afford a fancy video editing setup right now, so we're letting the facts do the talking. Today, we're unpacking the intensely divisive reaction to Michael Sarnoski's new film, The Death of Robin Hood. It is literally tearing audiences right down the middle. If you appreciate focused, no-nonsense breakdowns like this, hit that like button. It really helps us out. Now let's dive into this cinematic controversy. Let's take a quick look at the agenda. We're going to cover 1. A dark new legend. 2. The polarizing critical divide. 3. Deconstructing the myth. 4. The audience fights back. And finally, 5. A brutal box office. All right, jumping right into section 1, a dark new legend, the return to Sherwood. So right out of the gate, we have to acknowledge the sheer amount of prestige driving this project. I mean, you've got director Michael Sarnoski, the guy behind Pig and A Quiet Place, Day One, at the helm. Then you throw in a stellar cast led by Hugh Jackman alongside Jodie Comer and Bill Skarsgård. And on top of all that, the indie darling powerhouse studio A24 snatched this up in a highly competitive Cannes market. Basically, this thing was built from the ground up to be an absolute cinematic heavyweight. But here is the kicker. This is absolutely not your grandfather's folklore hero. What we actually get is an R-rated, visceral, bloodthirsty reimagining. Our protagonist is an aging, gravely injured bandit who's desperately wrestling with the profound guilt of a violent life filled with crime and murder. It's really about a man meeting death strictly on his own terms. Moving on to Section 2, the polarizing critical divide, perfect tens and Cs. Okay, sitting right at a 65% on Rotten Tomatoes from those early review embargo lifts, and pulling a very similar 62 on Metacritic, we immediately run into a problem. Usually, prestige A24 projects are aiming way higher than this, so a mid-60s baseline is a massive flashing sign telling us this film is deeply, deeply polarizing to professional critics. On the positive end of the spectrum, reviewers are practically showering Hugh Jackman with praise. Barry Hertz over at the Globe and Mail actually called him a godsend in the title role. He noted his eternally sturdy on-screen presence, comparing it to how Nicolas Cage's unpredictability elevated Pig. Critics are loving Jackman's ability to anchor such a heavy, mournful narrative. By the way, quick question for you all. Drop a comment down below and tell me what your all-time favorite version of Robin Hood is. I'm super curious to read those. Now, in stark contrast, critics like Frank Jheck at The Hollywood Reporter argue that the film completely suffocates its own story. He went as far as calling it a tedious slog, saying you spend most of the overlong runtime just wishing the main character would die faster. Ouch. The core argument here is that Sarnoski pushed so hard for gravitas and seriousness that the 2-hour runtime ends up feeling punishing rather than poignant. That brings us to Section 3, Deconstructing the Myth, Swashbuckler to Sinner. To really understand why these reviews are giving us whiplash, we have to look at the massive tonal shift we're dealing with here. Traditionally, right, the myth paints Robin Hood as this lovable swashbuckler. He's a whimsical, heroic champion who steals from the rich to give to the poor. But Sarnoski's reimagining, it turns him into a battle-worn loner, a violent murderer paralyzed by existential inertia and deep regret. Taking a joyful symbol of the people and turning him into an emblem of death, that fundamentally challenges the audience's entire relationship with the folklore. And naturally, commenters and analysts alike have firmly anchored this film to the familiar old man Logan trope. We've been seeing this archetype everywhere lately, taking an aging, broken hero and dropping them into a bleak, unforgiving landscape right at the end of their life. Ironically enough, Hugh Jackman basically pioneered this exact cinematic trend with his Wolverine swan song. But applying this specific, gritty genre staple to a character like Robin Hood, that is exactly what's driving the massive debate we're seeing right now. All right, let's step away from the critics for Section 4. The audience fights back. Reddit and Discus react. So everyday moviegoers on forums are completely split. Some audiences are absolutely eating up this bold swing. They're comparing it to heavy hitters like The Assassination of Jesse James, praising its metaphorical, existential tone. They love the performances and are really highlighting how beautiful the film is. Not just the sweeping vistas, but literally the rugged landscape of Jackman's craggy, storied face, acting as a storytelling device all on its own. Yet, on the flip side, there's an incredibly vocal segment of the audience experiencing some massive fatigue. Check out this quote.
People are saying they don't want old Robin Hood, old Sherlock Holmes, or old Professor X. They are simply exhausted by Hollywood's obsession with depressing, aging heroes. A lot of viewers just want some good old-fashioned escapism, not stark 2-hour reminders of their own mortality. Hey, if you have a friend who is constantly complaining about dark, gritty movie reboots, do me a favor and share this explainer with them right now.
Throughout all these online debates, fans consistently keep pointing back to the enduring, definitive visions of the character. We're talking about the joy of the 1930s Errol Flynn swashbuckler, Disney's 1970s animated classic, or even the 1950s Robin Hood Daffy cartoon. Audiences hold fiercely onto these adaptations as proof that, hey, maybe Robin Hood is a legend best left completely untouched by the grimdark brush. Let's look at the financial side in Section 5, a brutal box office, the industry impact. Look at this timeline. This project started out with sky-high hype when A24 acquired it in a massive deal at the Cannes market. But notice that June 19th date. With the review embargo lifting on June 12th to a highly divisive 65%, the film is now heading straight into a wildly crowded summer market. We're talking heavy blockbuster competition. It really makes you wonder if a slow, R-rated meditation on death can actually survive in the middle of popcorn season.
So, as you digest everything we've covered today, I'm going to leave you with a pretty provocative question. Is Hollywood's obsession with grimdark deconstructions finally wearing thin? Are we actually ready to return to heroes who, actually enjoy being heroes? It's something to think about as these classic myths continue to be reimagined. If you got something out of this deep dive, please subscribe to the channel so you never miss a future explainer. Thank you so much for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one.